Hello and welcome to another video. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make UK Garage in the style of Sammy Virji, inspired by his track Bogeyman. This is my second Virji video, and I've linked the first one in the description. Please like and subscribe if you learned something from this tutorial, and don't forget to comment below with any artists you'd like me to cover in future. Let's get into it. Our BPM is 136. Bogeyman isn't in a defined key, and it has a chromatic feel, meaning that you might find 3 notes at adjacent intervals, as with this bass line. This adds to the track's off-kilter feel. I've emulated these techniques and I'll discuss them further throughout the video. A semi-related aspect of Bogeyman is its skippy triplet feel. For example, the kick utilizes these triplet notes. And you can see the note divisions in the top right of the screen, so keep an eye out for these. For the kick, we have a thuddy modern take on a 909 kick. There's a kick reverse, which is a great technique for leading into and accenting kicks. It's reminiscent of the scratching samples that appear elsewhere in the project, and scratching kicks back and forth is a common technique for scratch DJs. Next we have the drums, starting with the rims. I noticed that the main rim in Bogeyman was quite dark, so I've tried to emulate this. You may have clocked the reverb automation on rim 1. I've chosen to send this to the empty club reverb on send A for simplicity, but you could use a longer reverb for variety. Next we have the snare roll, again with that triplet feel. Acoustic elements are crucial to a Virji style, whether it's electric pianos, flutes, or acoustic drum fills. This is likely a result of some of the jazz adjacent influences prevalent in his music. The arrangement feels quite empty without these fills. Hey! Hey! Next we have the high perks, starting with the hats. These are in a choke group to keep the hats arrangement tight. Then there's a second hat, which is panned to the opposite speaker. I noticed Virji doing the same in Bogeyman. And remember, for the hats, I've used triplet notes when it comes to the closed hats. Then we have a shaker. And a tambourine, where I've used an auto pan to sidechain. And finally, this hat effects. On the high perks group, I've used a parallel rack with redux and vinyl distortion for a dirtier sound. The triplet feel is reinforced by the 2-step shuffle, which is applied to all the elements in the drums group. This is with the groove on and off. On the drums group, there's parallel glue, drum bus also in parallel, saturation, EQ, and TDR Nova for sidechaining the low frequencies using the kick as a trigger. Nova is free, and I'll link it below. Reverb is applied via sendo, but Bogeyman's drums are very dry and upfront, so it's at -40. This is the reverb soloed for the whole project. Next we have the basses. Starting with the warp. So we have that chromatic pattern I mentioned earlier. The first two basses use FM synthesis as a means of creating harmonies within individual MIDI notes. First, we have the sub, a sine wave taken down by 2 octaves, is on direct out, so filters and processing are not affecting it. Oscillator A is another sine wave taken down by 2 octaves. Both warp menu knobs are active and FMing both oscillators B and C. The modulation amounts modulated by LFO1, which is on envelope mode. Oscillator B is a sine wave taken up by 7 semitones, which is creating that harmony I talked about, and C is a sine wave taken up by an octave. Both oscillators have their levels taken down, so we're only hearing the FM effect. The LFO shape is crucial to the character of these sounds. A is running into filter 1, which has its cutoff modulated by LFO1, although this is mostly to utilize the drive and fat. In the effects, there's a multi-band compressor and EQ with parameters modulated by LFO1. Then we have 2 distortions. And chorus for width and detuning. On the channel, there's reverb with its dry wet automated. Then we have the wobble, which is similar to the wob. I've used pitch bend here. Notice how in Serum 2 I've taken the bend up value to 3 semitones and ordinarily it's at 2. LFO1's shape is quite different to the previous patch. It's on retrigger as well, and we have glide. The settings for the effects are the same as the wob. And finally, we have the saw. We have a saw wave taken down by 2 octaves going into filter 1. In the effects, there's multi-band compression, distortion, and chorus. I noticed these triplet staccato stutters in Bogeyman, so I've emulated these. And if we go back to Serum 2 and have a look in the effects, we can see LFO1 is modulating the master tuning, which is slowly decreasing, but only by a semitone over half a bar. Like the previous bass, there's an element of pitch modulation, but this time we're not using pitch bend or glide. On the basses group, there's bass mono, EQ, and we're compressing the low frequencies using multi-band compression. Then there's parallel glue, and sidechaining using the TDR Nova. Finally, reverb is applied via A. Next, we have the effects, starting with the noise impact. Here, I've automated the sidechain amount using the auto pan. Automating sidechain amounts is a great technique for adding dynamics to your productions. Then we have this spaceship noise. This is the first instance of tape stop in this project, and I'm using the 3 kHz plugin throughout. I've used this after the echo, so the echo itself tape stops, and this creates a longer tail. Then we have the reverses, and here I've applied echo to the group. And then the drum reverses. Reverses are another feature of Bogeyman, and I describe Virji's approach to ear candy as maximalist and highly detailed. They're essential when emulating his style. Let's have a listen with and without. Nowadays, I use AI to extract the stems from tracks I'm analysing, and there were definitely some of these subtle elements I missed in the mix. I'd recommend doing this if you're feeling your tunes aren't quite as detailed as the artists you're inspired by. Then we have the DJ scratches. And this weird effects. You might have noticed some of the elements are very wet and have lots of reverb or echo applies or automated. And there is this contrast between the processed, wetter sounds and the drier sounds with minimal processing in this project. Then we have the vinyl noise. This helps add a subtle layer of noise and grit to the production. Next up, we have the melodics. We have the flute with echo. The bird, which is inspired by a classic jungle sound heard in Bogeyman. This is another sound that descends chromatically with minimal echo. Finally, we have the orc hit. I've used this free plugin called Simple Hit, which I'd recommend for orchestra stabs. I've used octaves, with the higher notes much quieter. This helps the hits feel more modern. And again, it's chromatic, so it increases by 1 semitone per hit. These hits are chords, as you can probably hear, and they're not tuned within the plugin, so this isn't actually a B chord. I use Melodyne to analyze this orc hit, but you could also use Span, which is free, to look at the frequencies of the individual notes. Although if your ear is good enough, then you can work off vibes. On the effects group, there's drum bus, saturator, EQ, and TDR Nova for sidechaining purposes. plus reverb via A. Finally, we have the vocals, which are comprised of various chops. I'd highlight the tape stop, which is automated at the end of the shouts. And the auto pan stutter on the rap vocal. We also have more chromatic elements. I've taken this woo down by a semitone, for example, and these sung vocal chops are an octave apart. And this was just done for some tonal variety. On the Vox group, we have very similar inserts to the effects group and reverb applied via A. And finally, I've added an EQ to the main out to reflect the reference track. And that's the video. Please leave any questions in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.